order. Just the first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to or suggested changes to the agenda? No? Motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve?
Second, I guess. Do it.
I'll second.
Okay, all right. Are you taking the notes on who's making the motion and second? Or should I do that? Okay, great.
I'm gonna try.
Okay. All those in favor of the adopting the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passes unanimously. And then we'll just jump to, are there any, do we have public comment? Oh, we have it at the end.
Sorry, I got a problem with my phone. It was on vibrate, but it's ringing. So, I gotta go get that fixed.
You don't have any comment request forms that you received for comments? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Number 2, we're good.
All right, so I guess we'll move to new business, the financial auditor. I don't know, Mr. Moore, did you wanna just kind of give us a quick summary?
Yeah, so I mean, we've worked with McCready for quite a while, the past couple of years, 3-4 years. So this is just a standard engagement letter that they give to us every year. The price is, for the audits, $8,500 and $1,500 to do our IRS Form 990. But that's it. I mean, this is really just to get your thoughts, and if you guys approve, we're gonna take it to the board to have them approve it tomorrow.
Okay. Any comments?
I just have one. What's the standard requirement as far as going out for bids on these? Do we have a requirement for that?
We did send it out for bid.
No, but I mean, are we required to do that every 3 years? Is there a requirement?
So I talked to McCready, and they told us this is like the 5th year of our we have like a 5-year deal with them, we'll renew it with an engagement letter every year. So I think this might either be the last or the second to last one, so we do that in like a year or 2
Okay.
when we're done with all of that.
And Mr. Moore did reach out to several other firms based on our CPA's recommendations. They're not just local, they're all over. And this is what we have for you today. Unfortunately.
I just have a couple comments. I went through and I read last year's engagement letter, and I'll note that the engagement letter last year was sent to us on March 26, 2019, so we seem to be well ahead of the game. This year, it was actually signed by me as treasurer on March 28th, so again, we seem to be well ahead of the game compared to last year, which is good. And I just went through and I read both side by side, and just tried to highlight any any differences, and I saw a couple very minor ones. I think they're very minor, but just wanted to point them out. On page 1 of the 2020, 3rd line down of the 2nd paragraph, well, actually that sentence starts out, we will audit the financial statements of the governmental activities, comma, and then it says the business type activities, the aggregate discretely presented component units, comma, each major fund. They had all that language in there last year, except for they added the business type activities, the aggregate discretely presented component units. So I guess those are new items that they are gonna be reviewing this year. I'm not sure what a discretely presented component unit is.
Not either.
Exactly. And then on page 2, on the bottom paragraph, where it talks about an audit is not designed to provide assurance of internal order control or identify significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, they inserted the following sentence: accordingly, comma, we will express no such opinion. And that's the only change. They did continue on with the same language. However, during the audit, we will communicate to management any of those changes of governance, internal control matters. So that was all in there last year. They just added the accordingly will express no such opinion. And then on page 3, they added, under management responsibilities heading, they added a few, items. Management is responsible for designing, implementing, establishing. They started with establishing, so they started with, now this year, they added a few. Management is responsible for designing, implementing, establishing, maintaining, and then so on. Then at the bottom of page 3, the bottom paragraph, right in the middle, where you see that in 2 capital letters, the or, that whole sentence is new this year compared to last year's engagement letter. Or make the audited financial statements readily available to users of the supplementary information no later than the date the supplementary information is issued with our report. Again, just minor changes, but I just wanted to point that out. And those are the only differences that I saw from the wording from the 2019 engagement letter. And I guess my second comment is, McCready and Associates has been the auditor for the school, going back from the school's inception and when we were first required to have a outside audit. And at the back of each annual audit is a statement that they prepare, legally they have to prepare by statute for the school, the school board, any other interested parties, including the Auditor General, who reports to the legislature, actually is technically part of the legislature, at DOE, any other interested parties of the governance of charter schools in the state of Florida. And it goes through, I think 4 or 5, maybe even 6 areas where they, as auditor, recommend any type of, where they've identified any type of, reporting or budgeting or any other fiscal, what they see maybe as a potential deficiency, and to just advise the school and other interested parties that there may be some. And for 5 years, ever since we've been audited by McCready Associates, there have been no identified deficiencies on anything that management should look at in terms of working with McCready to put together a very thorough audit. So my thought is that continuing with them, especially because one of those items on that report that's given to the Auditor General is discussing any deficiencies identified last year. So if they're the same auditor this year, then they can continue on with saying we identified none this year, and hopefully they say we will not identify any this year. So that's my thought. Any other?
Lighthouse of Collier, which I'm involved in, they've used the same company for the last 9 years.
Oh, okay.
And they've renewed it every year.
Okay.
Been very
Nice to know.
satisfied with
Okay,
results,
good.
performance.
I've always heard of them as being a reputable company, and it certainly seems like staying with a company who's familiar with that, as long as we haven't had any issues, that makes sense for efficiency and everything else, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've heard the same too, and I think that it speaks well that I believe they're technically based outside of Orlando, right, not Monte Springs, so,
Alpine Springs, yeah.
yeah, so if they have, local clients, a number of local clients, good reputation down here, I think that speaks well for,
Yeah,
them as a firm overall.
70% of the revenue for Lighthouse comes on state of Florida grants and loans based on
Mm-hmm. Right.
Good audit.
a good audit,
Yeah.
so.
And if we didn't get any other responses, what other options do we have? Unless we keep delaying, so.
Right,
I
right.
can go ahead and get the process started.
Yeah, exactly. I don't feel it's worth the delay to look at other ones. I think the school's been well served by them in the past and will continue to be so. So I guess, should we make a motion to recommend McCready and Associates is there a motion to recommend McCready and Associates to engage them for this year's fiscal audit of Mason Classical Academy?
So moved.
I would second that.
Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None, passes unanimously. All right, item B, Audit Committee Charter Recommendations. Mr. Moore.
Yeah, so if you turn to the second page of the charter, it just says that annually the committee will review and reassess the charter and make recommendations to the board of directors. So I thought it'd be a good time to do this. And the only things I noticed is with the responsibility, you have to, like number 3 and 4, it seems like we have to meet with the auditor quite a bit, and it might be hard to schedule, so I didn't know if you guys thought that we still should meet that much. I just kinda wanted to throw it out there and see what you guys thought about the situation.
Mm-hmm. Thoughts, comments?
I'm not one for changing things once it's been put in place, unless there's really a need for it. Why don't we go through an audit and see what it's like, and if it's cumbersome, then we can give input at the end.
Alright, sounds good.
That's just my thoughts.
I had a couple suggestions, or to see what everyone thought. Under the committee meetings on the first page, I believe it's the third sentence, the audit committee chair shall develop an agenda in advance of audit committee meetings. I felt it was very helpful for me to coordinate with Mr. Moore on this, so I would just like to add, the audit committee chair, comma, in coordination with staff, comma, shall develop an agenda in advance of the audit committee meetings. And then.
I mean, I don't even know if it'd have to be updated to do that, because I think that,
That's kind of a given.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess later on in the paragraph,
I mean, they can do it and you just approve the agenda, that's totally fine to me.
okay,
meaning that you're not coordinating with the other board members, but
Right.
obviously you're gonna
Yep.
coordinate with staff, so
okay,
going along his lines, making as few changes unless needed,
Every time we make a change, somebody's gonna look at that change.
Right.
Why
right,
did we make it?
right.
So,
Well, I do think, what do you think about at the end of that same committee meetings section, changing it to, at least 7 days in advance to, 2 or 3? Give us a little bit of flexibility to work with staff and change things as needed.
well, you can always change things at the meeting and add it to the agenda you can amend the agenda, but are you required by law to have it done by a certain date?
So we have to post the agenda in a reasonable time before the meeting,
Correct.
and I think reasonable is like a week.
Correct.
But if you can like kind of update it a little bit
Yeah,
as
the
you go
agenda's
on.
flexible.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
update it as you go on. And I think the only reason you're saying that is because then like if you do update and we have to add something like 3 days before the meeting,
Sure.
we'd have to put the supporting documents on there, and since it says 7 days, you might have an issue with that.
Yeah, in my experience, we just come to meetings and if we need to, amend the agenda, we just say, here's the documents we need to discuss that wasn't on the agenda, we need to amend the agenda.
Mhm.
And someone just makes a motion to amend it right then and there.
Okay. Makes sense. All right, I'm gonna make one more stab at change.
Maybe page 2 will do it for you.
Number 6. Number 6 is irrelevant now, I feel. We're now in 2020, so I would like
Yes.
to remove that,
Yes.
or make the recommendation to remove that.
Let's get that behind us.
All right, I end with a win.
But I'm gonna go along the same lines in that saying that if it was already completed, then do you not need to amend it, or does it become moot? Going along his lines is that, do we want somebody to come and say later that, oh, well,
Yeah.
we put something forth to make it like we're in compliance and then we changed all the rules afterwards? I mean, if we already complied with it, then I think it's moot, and that wouldn't be something that would necessitate a update. I don't have a big problem either way with it, I see but I don't see that as benefiting us. If anything, I could see the thing where you would talk about the 7 days because of the, attaching the documents, but then somebody could question that too.
All right, let's keep it as is then, or I suggest we keep it as is. All right, so I guess we, there are no motions, correct? Or that, are there any motions to make any changes to the audit committee charter? None taken, all right. And you mentioned there's no public comments? You gotta-
We didn't have any forms filled out.
Okay.
According to the agendas.
Great. Any committee comments?
Sorry, I was late.
Okay. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All right. Vote to adjourn the
I'm trying to be
meeting,
quiet.
state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Alright.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. All right.